Let's turn now to cybersecurity. A new documentary podcast out this week examines China's rise to cyber supremacy and the state-sponsored hackers haunting America's infrastructure. Joining us now, Nicole Perlroth, former cybersecurity reporter at the New York Times and the host of To Catch a Thief, China's Rise to Cyber Supremacy. She's also the author of This Is How They Tell Me the World Ends, an expose on the global cyber arms race. She served on the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity Advisory Committee under President Biden. Nicole, great to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Can't wait to listen to this podcast. Everybody has known for a long time that cyber has been active on the state-sponsored cyber front in terms of its armies of hackers, et cetera. How do you think the game has changed under a Trump administration?
So, a lot of what we covered is not new. It was about really connecting the dots. We know that China has ripped off IP. We know that a lot of the sort of bankruptcies you've seen among wind turbine makers, solar panel manufacturers, no one has really connected those dots back to Chinese IP theft. But that's how they started out, right? They were raiding our IP, and so much of it is tied back to these hacks. So we go through these stories on the podcast. The big pivot has been into our critical infrastructure. And it really picked up in 2020. Actually, when Trump started calling COVID the China virus, these hacks got very aggressive. And they've come for our water networks, they've come for our airports, they've come for our transportation systems, they've come for the grid, and they've come for pipelines. And the thinking is that they want to be there to pre-position in the event of some future conflict, perhaps over Taiwan.
Okay, so in terms of how they get into the infrastructure, and I think this is what people sort of don't get,
Yes.
because they think of an attack on infrastructure and they think of it as a physical attack, which is one way of doing it. But all of this infrastructure has sensors embedded in everything, and how you control the power and how you control even a railway. I mean, can you walk us through how that happens?
Thank you for the question, because the mechanics of these attacks are super important to understand. All of these systems are digital now, right? So when you get into a water treatment facility now, you can get into the chemical controls, and potentially contaminate the water. You could shut it off. All of these things would be critical for a psychological component. I really think of these as like a psychological deterrent, that if suddenly we couldn't get access to clean water, what appetite would Americans have then to support an island 7,000 miles away, right? But back to the mechanics, one of the ways that they're getting into these systems is they come through home routers. TP-Link is now it's a Chinese router company. They have 60% market share in the U.S. If you go on Amazon right now, the Amazon overall pick for a new home router is a TP-Link router. TP-Link routers have been used as funnels for Chinese hackers to launch these attacks on critical infrastructure. Why are they coming through home routers? They're coming through home routers because if you are an operator at a water treatment facility and you see some traffic coming from a home in Indianapolis, you're not going to think it's suspicious. You're definitely not going to think it's Chinese hackers, state-sponsored hackers, right? So it gives them some plausible deniability, but it's really it's critical Americans understand how they're pulling off some of these attacks.
I had a couple questions, Nicole. So if Trump hadn't said that about the China virus, which turned out to be true, but if he hadn't said that, you don't think they'd have this capability, right?
They would have done it anyway.
They would have done it, then why mention it?
So I mention it because anytime we've had escalated rhetoric with China, the spying has picked up, the activity's picked up. And the only reason I mention it now is because now, with tariffs, we're in one of these periods where tensions are escalating and we're likely to see more activity.
Right, because now I'm even more angry, because not only was it probably lab generated, but when they shut down their certain flights one place but didn't at other place. Now it's not just, it came from there. Now I'm wondering if they did all they could to stop it from coming here. That's being nice versus actually exporting it. The other thing that got me was, you don't think that they'd like to do this just in general? It has to do with a contingency plan for when they move on Taiwan. Don't you think they'd like this in their pocket just because we are...
It would be an act of war. Does China want to have
I understand that, but it could be anything. They want this capability just because we are in a race for global hegemony with China. So
the big pivot here, though, is for the last decade, we didn't see them in our infrastructure. We started seeing them coming for some companies like Telvent, which provides software into the grid, into pipeline networks. And at first, the thinking was this was IP theft because so many of these hacks were coming for IP commercial
now it's
theft.
secure.
Now it's prepositioning,
and
that is
domination.
a huge
Scary.
pivot.
Scary.
Right. And the idea is they want leverage, and this is how they're trying to get it.
And imagine an all-at-once attack.
And how about the balloon? And,
water, power, everything all at once.
Buying farmland all
them.
around our military facilities. I mean, it's frightening.
Yeah, it's what we call the everything, everywhere, all at once cyber scenario that we have to start planning for, really. And a lot of it comes down to some of it's basic cyber hygiene. A lot of it's intel sharing between the public-private sector. A lot of it is private companies realizing they now have to hunt for these Chinese hackers in their systems. And one thing that's really important on this sort of change in tactics, they're not hacking in anymore. They're logging in, right? They're stealing your credentials, they're getting in, and then they're not doing anything while they're there other than what we call living off the land. They're just trying to blend into everyday traffic so that no one notices they're there, but just to stay there in case they ever need to detonate on that access one day.
Dormant until it's not.
Pretty frightening.
Nicole, fascinating. Thank you so much for coming.
It wouldn't take long for us to just lose it here.
I mean, think about Colonial Pipeline. You know, when that happened, that was a bumbling group of cyber criminals. And you saw Americans showing up at gas tanks with like big plastic bags.
And with in line, pulling out a gun. Someone tried to cut their line. I saw it out where I live. Maybe it was, I'm not sure which one it was, but it was impossible to get gas. The lines were long, and it gets nasty quick.
Yeah, it's the panic. It's the panic and chaos.
Right. Right. Again, the podcast is To Catch a Thief. So sounds
is it a continuing podcast or just one?
Documentary.
Season 1, China.
Oh, season 1. it's in the book.
Yeah, I have no idea what season 2 will be yet. But
well, I hope there isn't a season.
Hopefully, it's not about an attack.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Nicole, thank you.